Hi everyone, this is Usha Pandit, your Mindsprings English teacher. Today we are going to do advice and advise. So they're not really homophones because there is a slight difference in pronunciation. And what is that? It's advice with an S and advise with a Z. Okay? So advice and advise, advice and advise. So all of us love to give advice, don't we? And we love to advise other people. So we like to give advice and also advise other people. So in one, you've got it as a noun, to give advice, to give something to someone, right? To give here a piece of advice. Advice. And there you want to advise people. You think you're wise and you want to advise everybody because it's easy to advise, isn't it? It's very difficult to take advice because you have to follow the advice and you will then have to work hard to make it better. Whatever your problem was for which you went and tried to get advice, now that someone has advised you, you now have to follow that advice, and therefore you'll have to work very hard on the habit that you have. Maybe that was a problem, or maybe you had some other problems with people, maybe your boss, maybe your colleague, maybe your husband or your wife or your children. Whenever we have problems, people tell us what to do. And that telling what to do is advice. So an advice, a piece of advice is a suggestion or an opinion or a recommendation to pursue a course of action, telling you this is what you should do. If your child is throwing a tantrum, you need to calm him down. You need to put him in a place where he is safe. You need to make him comfortable. You need to make sure that he finishes his tantrum in a safe place, and then you need to talk to him after that. All this is advice. But when it's actually happening, doing it is going to be not only difficult, it's going to be the person, you are the person who has to do all that has been given to you as advice has to be followed by you. The person who has advised you has vanished, no more in the picture. So that's the meaning of advice. It's a noun. So the sentences are: take my advice, let me give you a piece of advice. So you can say, I took advice, I need advice, I have some advice for you. They offered, or they provided, or they gave advice, or you sought advice. So, with all these verbs, you can use the noun advice, okay? Basically to give and take. That's what they all mean. And see, there again, you've got a lot of extra vocabulary that I've given you. All of them either mean to give or to take. So you can also have adjectives in front of the word advice. So you have profound advice. So sometimes if you go to the spiritual gurus or some sort of very wise and holy men, they might give you profound advice. You can also get tax advice from your tax consultant, or you can get legal advice from your legal consultants, or you might get credit advice from your banks, or you might get investment advice from your banker. So all kinds of advice is given to you. So how do you remember this advice? See the ice there? So if you remember nice to give advice, it's nice to give advice. You will never forget the word nice, and therefore you will know how to pronounce the word advice, and you will know that it's a noun. Okay, so this is advice. Let's go to advise now. Advise is with a Z. It's spelt I-S-E and it's pronounced with a Z. So here it's pronounced, it's spelled ICE and pronounced with an S, and there it is pronounced with a Z. To give an opinion, now here if it's a thing that was given to you, that is to give, to actually be in the act of giving. So to give an opinion, a suggestion, but it's also got other forms. In a very formal sense, advise is used in a formal way to suggest an official warning, or to give some very formal info in a formal letter or a formal notice or a formal poster, something very official. Or it can also be to reprimand, to tick off. I'll give you that word, reprimand. Nice word, reprimand. Reprimand is a nice big word for the word scold, to scold someone, to kind of tell them off, to tick them off, phrasal there, tick them off. And therefore, all of those officially, when you do something in an office, that also you use this word advise, but not in that friendly way of advising you to be careful with your money, you should not talk to strangers. That kind of advice is very is very nice to give and good to hear, but sometimes it can be very official, very curt and very cold, and there also you use this word advise. So I'd advise you to, now you might say I'd advise you to be silent in the library. A librarian might say that, I'd advise you to. Very formal there. Instead of saying keep quiet, shut up, words like that, I'd advise you to is formal, but there's a certain amount, a tenor of strictness in it. I'd advise you to is a very strong way of saying do not. Okay? I strongly advise that you go and buy those tickets before Friday. Otherwise, you won't be able to see the show. I strongly advise that. I strongly advise, verb. I'd advise. Be advised that you will be. Now this is formal, almost legal language. Be advised that you will be terminated if you do not send us the reason for your long leave by 30th of March. Be advised means be warned, be careful, we are going to terminate you. This is to advise you to return the library books that you borrowed last week. Okay? A letter that you write, this is to advise you. Very formal letter written asking for the books back. We need to advise you, we need you to advise us on. Here to advise is an infinitive. Okay? A verb form of the verb to advise, infinitive form. And you can also use it in this sense where you say we need you to advise us on legal matters or advise us on matters of property. So you can use it in several ways. These are the uses of the word advise, the verb advise. Okay, so if you've understood this, remember it's a noun, remember it's a verb. You've got this noun form of this is an advisor also, and or an advisory council. An advisory council is a council that will advise a company on how to do business. So you can also have it in the adjectival form. So this is just extra information that I'm giving you. Let's do some exercises now. The doctor me on being careful about medical on the net. So if it's a doctor and me, then it has to be a verb. So you might say the doctor told me. So if you can substitute the word verb told, then you can put there advised, advised. Okay, it's a S for the verb. Advised me on being careful about medical. Can I say medical told on the net? No. Medical tell on the net? No. So therefore it is advice. It's a thing. Advice on the net. The notice the residents to heed. The notice told told the residents. Does it make sense? Yes. So we are going to put there advised. So notice advised the residents to heed their earlier on waste segregation. Earlier, can it be earlier told? Earlier, no. So it has to be earlier advice on waste segregation. You know what waste segregation is? Wet waste and dry waste, isn't it? We need to separate them out because we need to manage them better. Employees were, now when you see were there, it's a helping verb. You can say, you can put advised without even thinking. Were advised. Were being an auxiliary. So advised to take legal, you've got an adjective there, and therefore it will be advice. To take legal advice regarding non-payment of salaries. So we've looked at advice and advise. So you know how to use it, you know what they mean, you know their parts of speech, and the tip is nice to give advice, and the wise will advise well. The wise, so wise and advise, nice and advice. That's how you need to remember it. So thank you very much for watching, and subscribe to our channel. In the description box you will find our link where you can go and buy books. Writing with Ease is my book, in which you will find these sentences, some of tips on homophones, confusing words, etc. In the comment box, do write what you would like me to do in the future. Till we meet again, keep smiling.